All right, it sounds like we are now live and ready to get started. I would now like to call to order the December 7th, 2022 meeting of the Indiana State Board of Education. Roll call, please.
Good morning. Mr. Best.
Here.
Ms. Delosa.
Here.
Mr. Durham. Dr. Ernest.
Present.
Mr. Gastineau.
Here.
Ms. Hamill.
Here.
Mr. Mapes.
Here.
Ms. Moat.
Here.
Ms. Rentschler. Can hear us, right? Ms. Rentschler.
She said, I'm here. I'm getting
Yeah,
good at reading
I was
lips.
just,
She did say, I am here. I agree with that.
For sure.
Noted.
Mr. Watts.
Here.
Dr. Jenner.
Here.
Thank you. Of quorum.
Okay, let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the November 2nd, 2022 meeting? We have a motion?
Second.
We have motion second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So a few updates. Since the last time we met in November, we had Veterans Day. On that day, we awarded 21 new Purple Star schools who go above and beyond to show their commitment to our veterans and their families, as well as the students who are connected to the military. So congratulations to those 21 schools. Also, right before Thanksgiving, we had another Milken Award winner. Of course, that's one of the top honors in our country where teachers can win or awarded $25,000. In this case, we were so honored to celebrate fourth grade math teacher, Miss Angela Fowler from Grassy Creek Elementary in Clark Pleasant Community School Corporation, who was surprised with this award. So good news there. We also launched, you might have seen this on the news or in the media, comparable to the special education licensure program called iSeal. That's a partnership with UIndy. We had about, a year to date from last year, we have 630 teachers signed up for this, so very successful. We launched iTell, which is all for English learner teachers. Interestingly, and probably not surprising to the board, since 2016, we've seen an increase in English learner students across our state, a 50% increase. So we have over 77,500 EL students across the state, with quite a few of our superintendents seeing a significant increase and a significant need in qualified teachers. Over the past 2 years, we have increased our EL teachers, our EL certifications by 38%, but we still need to continue to increase those certifications. So iTell, for any current teacher, for any person who has a bachelor's degree who's interested in a transition to teaching, this will pay for all tuition, books, etc. So great opportunity. And as we've shared before, we'd love to have people who are interested join our profession to serve. Today, we will hear from Jason Callahan, who has an update on Indiana GPS, and then pretty exciting for quite a few of our board members, if not all of us. We'll also hear from 3 different school corporations who are really going to present today pretty cool opportunities for kids. So on that note, I'll open it up if anyone has board member comments or reports. Seeing and hearing none, we'll open it up for public comment. Kendra Johnson.
Good morning to each and every one of you.
Good morning.
First thing I would like to comment on, you mentioned about the veterans. Well, today is Pearl Harbor Day.
Yes.
And if you've researched it, there's not too many of the veterans from Pearl Harbor left. But when you think about how they gave their lives and their service to our country, it's incredible. I used to live in a housing complex that was named after one of those veterans, Dory Miller. And it was amazing because he was not stationed to work any type of ammunition. But when the attacks occurred, he stepped up above and beyond to defend those that were on his ship. Sadly, he ended up losing his life. But as I said before, these individuals are the ones that we owe our freedom to, and we should never forget them, whether it's next year or 200 years from now. We should never forget any veteran. And to those who have served, I say thank you. As the holidays are coming up, one of the biggest things I always think about is families. And while the children are out of school, what can families do to keep the education going? One thing is getting them involved with what goes on with different cultures during this time. How do different cultures celebrate the upcoming holidays? We've got Hanukkah, we've got Kwanzaa, we've got Christmas, we've got Boxing Day, we've got all sorts of different celebrations. And I've often said, once you understand the culture and the morals and backgrounds of an individual, you get to understand an individual. And once you come on that type of ground, then you can come on common ground about a lot of other issues that affect our children and community. Lastly, I would like to say I hope each and every one of you enjoy the remainder of this year, because in less than 30 days, we will be looking at a brand new year. Where has the time gone? And so, as I said, let's look forward to the new year. Let's look forward to great opportunities for our young people. Let's learn from the past, work on the present, and look for the future. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Kendra. We have no other public comments today, so I would now like to take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Before we do, if we could, I will be recusing on E, common school loans, and N, homeschool exits on consent agenda.
Say that one more time, those letters, BJ.
E, common school loans, and N, homeschool exits.
Great, ENN, got it.
I will be recusing from item G.
Katie Moat, item G. Any other recusals? All right, thank you for that. Is there?
With that, I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, new business. Again, we're going to hear from 3 different schools. The first will be the school city of Hammond, followed by Goodwill Leeds, Inc., and then finally Yorktown Community Schools. So if school city of Hammond, you would like to come up and share, we'd love to hear more about your proposal. And we'll start with Miss Flora Jones, Director of Pathways of the Department of Education.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having us today to bring this important information to you and opportunities for our students, to Dr. Jenner and the State Board of Education. It is an honor and a privilege to present today 3 proposed locally created pathways for the 22-23 school year. Over the past 8 months, we have worked with multiple school districts who shared an interest in proposing a new locally created pathway during the application period to support students across the state of Indiana. Through an extensive process, the IDOE, along with the Governor's Workforce Cabinet, Commission for Higher Ed, and Department of Workforce Development, reviewed all applications, and we provided initial feedback to align their proposal with the IDOE's rubric that provides guidance and directives for the creation of a locally created pathway. For the 22-23 school year, we received 7 proposals. After being vetted by the aforementioned committee, 4 were asked to resubmit for the 23-24 school year. The 3 proposed LCPs that moved forward were met with additional vetting and agency support. Through this process, we were able to find the yes and ensure that credentials of currency were embedded for post-secondary success in each LCP. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Stacy Brewer, principal of Yorktown High School, LCP, Evolution Towards Employability. Scott Miller, superintendent, and Dr. Cassandra Shipp, assistant superintendent of academics for the School of City of Hammond, LCP JROTC. Trent Moore, director of CTE for Goodwill Industries, Michiana, LCP Catapult. These presenters will share their locally created pathways and, most importantly, their why. The ultimate goal is to provide access to all students across the state to post-secondary success. Thus, we are the gatekeepers, and today we bring 3 keys to open the gate of opportunity for our children who have interest in employability, JROTC, and our adult learners in Catapult certification. Please welcome Stacy Brewer from Yorktown High School.
Good morning.
Good morning. On behalf of Yorktown Schools, we would like to thank Ms. Flora Jones and Elise Locke for their support during this process. Additionally, I would like to thank Dr. Jenner and the members of the Indiana State Board of Education for considering Yorktown High School's locally created pathway, the evolution towards employability. As we know, not all students are destined for immediate entrance into post-secondary education, the military, or trade schools. Some students will be successful contributing members of our community working in food service, maintenance, and groundskeeping, to name a few professions. These roles are vital to the upkeep of our communities. Some students know their goal post-high school is to be workforce ready. For those students who are not pulled to a specific skilled trade, Box 3 options are limited. Where students whose goal is to be workforce ready could qualify for a waiver, this does not best prepare them for their next steps. You will see within our LCP, we have integrated a wide range of career exploration opportunities, training experiences, one-on-one mentorship, and targeted guidance to meet the established career objectives for all students. Before we get too far, this is not a pathway for the many. Rather, this is for a specific group of students, no more than 5% of a cohort, who have expressed a desire to be workforce ready. And if done with fidelity, students all over the state could benefit from a corporation's ability to replicate this plan. Also, a key component to ensuring the success for this pathway is a strong partnership with middle schools to establish a smooth transition to grade 9, creating an open line of communication to enhance sharing of data, interest inventories, student narratives as it regards to their future ambitions. Within this multifaceted collaboration, a team will help guide a student towards a Box 3 option. Metrics and outcomes.
And I think, hold real quick, let's make sure the slides are moving forward. for the people at home as well as for the board.
Look at that.
There we go, and I think we're on the next one there. Yep, there we go. Okay, keep
Thank
going,
you.
thank you.
So am I in charge now?
You're in charge, you got it.
Watch out. Metrics and outcomes. Yorktown High School is fortunate to have several partners who were consulted during the developmental stages and provided us with feedback regarding quality and skill employers are seeking. These desired outcomes will be enhanced as students complete Job Ready Indy badging program. This badging program develops credentials of currency, focusing on mindset, self-management, learning strategies, social skills, workplace skills, and launching a career. In fact, these modules were noted as exemplars in the Employability Skills Standard Implementation Guide published by the IDOE in consultation with the Department of Workforce Development. In addition to badging, our students will work directly with Ivy Tech College Connection coaches. These coaches will enhance student awareness of future educational opportunities and certifications. Beyond the Ivy Tech coaches, students will engage in internships with a designated mentor from the department leaders in Yorktown Community Schools. During this component, students will develop hard skills gained on the job through on-the-job training and will be able to experience department-specific training. Courses and requirements. I know so far this sounds wonderful, but we have not really addressed how that equates to the educational process. So let's go there. In grade 8, students will take Preparing for College and Careers. Combining the state standards with exploration tools within Naviance, we will allow incoming 9th graders a chance to explore what Box 3 option fits their high school plan. During grade 9, students who desire to be workforce ready will be identified and later scheduled to take adult roles. Adult roles is where we will integrate the Job Ready Indy badging system, as previously mentioned. Our partners indicate a need for students to be proficient in general bookkeeping and to be able to manage their own income responsibilities so that it does not detract from their ability to do their job and to be focused and dedicated. We believe that personal finance will help students accomplish this. Employers are looking for candidates who can communicate effectively and who can potentially grow into leadership roles, which requires them to be able to articulate their thoughts, their expectations, and their plans with confidence and conviction. Therefore, speech is among our required courses. Lastly, career exploration internship or cooperative education. Here, students will work side by side with mentors within Yorktown Community Schools' food service, maintenance, and transportation departments. Participants will complete all school employee trainings and department-specific trainings to further enhance their experience. As a side note, other schools could also implement this for a potential Box 2. We have a streamlined project-based learning experience for all of our students, so that doesn't necessarily fit our need, but others could. Credentials of currency. At the conclusion of this pathway, students will have a firm foundation in both soft and hard skills that are in line with what our local employers are looking for. Students will have mentors who will not only guide them through their experience, but who will keep them abreast of additional training, degrees, and employment opportunities they should consider. The evolution towards employability participants will have access to a career ladder through our partners' commitment for preferential interviewing and hiring. In fact, during spring semester of senior year, our participants will be a part of opening a pipeline to hire. They will come on campus in order to conduct interviews, to offer pre-employment training, and to educate students about benefits, long-term careers, and growth opportunities. Additionally, should a student obtain employment while enrolled with us, release time that is built into their schedule because of the work-based learning course can be utilized to get started on the career, and they can cross that graduation stage as a gainfully employed, positive contributor to our community. None of this pathway would be possible without our dedicated partnerships and consortiums. Yorktown Community School, we are the largest employer in our town, and we are excited for the chance to start from the ground up with our students to be potential employers. IU Health and Ball Memorial Hospital, the second largest employer in our county, has been an active participant in planning since the inception and are anxiously awaiting our implementation. The town of Yorktown, once again, working hard to try and keep tigers in our community, supporting our town. Carter Express and Magna, 2 large employers in East Central Indiana with amazing growth potential for students in high-wage, high-need career paths. In closing, I would like to reiterate a few thoughts for your consideration. This is a pathway that can be implemented statewide. This is a pathway for the few, not the many. This is a pathway that provides a solution for a group of young adults who deserve similar opportunities as their peers to gain experience, complete training, and build their resume in order to achieve their goal of being workforce ready. Ultimately, this path is what's best for kids. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I also see towards the back, Superintendent of Yorktown Schools, Greg Henshaw. But at this time, I would open it up if the board has any questions or comments from the Yorktown team. Yes, Byron.
I move to approve locally created pathway for Yorktown Community Schools.
We have a motion and a second. With a motion and a second, any discussion?
Just to comment, as I know the work that goes into putting something like this together, so to all 3 of you, like, I do appreciate that. And when we did this 5 years ago, 6 years ago, like, the goal was to say, hey, we don't want to get real prescriptive, and you do what's best for your kiddos. And like, that's what you've created here. And I know it's easy to do shelf vault stuff. So creating something like this is awesome, and I'm glad to see that we got 3 of them on the books today, so congrats.
You know, the other thing, you mentioned this in your closing comments, and actually when you started as well, that this is a way to, rather than providing a student population who may otherwise get a waiver to graduate, this is an option to connect them to a purposeful journey beyond. Mm-hmm. And so as a board, we'd love to hear, once you're rolling, we'd love to hear the results. We'd love to hear what you've learned, because you're right. This is a local model for Yorktown, but it absolutely could be a state model that we want to further highlight. So thank you for that. Yep. So any other discussion?
I just wanted to comment that I love how you really look to bring the community in on this and develop those partnerships. It's so important, and that's another one of the reasons why we did this. We wanted to make sure students are connected with the community and can grow within. Yeah. So, great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Yeah, Kristen.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Great. So looking over this, I'm very excited about it. At our own school, we are working on developing some additional pathways. And so my question is, you talk about starting in 8th grade. When is the latest that a student can kind of switch pathways and opt into this pathway?
Sure, yeah. So the goal would be that we are identifying prior to scheduling for 10th grade year, those students that through their process have been able to hone in that, you know what, after high school I want to go into the workforce. Now, we do have move-in situations and other opportunities that arise. Ideally, they will definitely be started beyond PCC, which has already been taken 8th grade year on that series of courses. But I think that we would have to be reflective of a student that might join us after that time to not exclude their opportunity if that is their ambition, and as long as we're not, going over that 5%. Yep.
All right, with a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations,
Thank you very
Yorktown
much.
Community Schools.
Thank you all.
All right, it looks like next we'll have School City of Hammond.
If you don't mind switching back to the slides. All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Scott Miller. I've been serving as the superintendent for School City of Hammond since 2019. I'd like to thank Dr. Jones for her unwavering support and advocacy to help bring us to this moment today. but I'm very excited to present to you a locally created pathway that addresses the third E of enrollment, employment, and enlistment leading to service. Right now, there exists a vacuum for students considering military in officially comprehensive pathways. And that's what we have here for you today, is a comprehensive pathway that far exceeds the recommended guidelines of creating an LCP, but it's robust and it's going to provide opportunities for students, especially those students who are considering enlistment. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Cassandra Shipp to give you all the details.
When I heard about the positive impact of School City of Hammond JROTC program had on students and the desire to create a graduation pathway that was intentional, I reflected on my high school experience of being a JROTC student. And I thought about all the leadership skills that I gained and understanding what it means to work in collaboration and what it means to be a team, and the additional understanding that I gained from civic leadership. These skills that I obtained as a high school JROTC student, I was able to make them transferable and take them to higher education in my college experience, as well as being a first-generation college student and taking them to the workforce that I currently use to this day. As I provide a brief narrative of the JROTC program, as you know, this will enhance students' leadership skills and citizenship's understanding. It is research-based that students that participate in the JROTC program have better grades, attendance, and a higher graduation rate. As being a part of the JROTC program, students are motivated to learn and be lifelong learners. It fosters discipline and constructive learning, and it provides a clear understanding of civic literacy. As we move to the matrix and outcomes, I will only highlight a few of the important outcomes of this LCP. Students will have the opportunity to complete a service learning or community service project each year. They maintained a B average in their JROTC program. They will attend a leadership summer conference or institute prior to entering their 11th or 12th grade year. They will enroll in multiple college courses, and they will complete a digital portfolio of service, community projects, and experiences in their JROTC program. Now, let's just look at the four-year sequence of courses. When students enter into high school, they will take the required courses, and we want to make sure that freshman year that they're getting established. So as you see, they will be in their required freshman classes as well as their JROTC program. As you move to the 10th grade year, you will also see that they're still taking their required high school courses, but you will see the entrance of dual credit courses. And in their 11th and 12th grade year, you will see the opportunity for them to take more of those dual credit courses. As they go through their 4 years in high school and we move to the credential and the currency of this, our students will have the opportunity to earn the Indiana College Core, which these courses can be transferable to any state institution. But there are two things that by completing this pathway that is significant. Students will have a strong knowledge of leadership and civics, as well as those college courses that if they enlist in our armed forces, it will put them at a higher rank and a higher pay. Also, if these students do not select to go to the military, those courses and experience that I spoke of personally, you can take it to a higher ed institution, and they're transferable to any work path in your life. As we look at our partnerships, and some of these are key partnerships to make sure this is successful, we have to stay in continuous collaboration with our JROTC teacher, work with our higher ed institution, which will be Ivy Tech Community College, have that ongoing relationship and meeting with our IUN ROTC liaison, collaborate with our CTE director on the courses that students will take, make sure that our community liaison consultants, which is our extra eyes to let us know what is going on in our communities and the impact of the educational program on our students. Also have our college and career coordinator give advice and make sure that we are making all the necessary changes to meet the current Indiana standards for our graduates. and most importantly, our parents, that our parents have a voice in this developing program, that we're saying this is not just for students to be enlisted or go to the armed forces, but it's for our students to learn those leadership skills, collaboration, and team building skills that they can take with them to a higher ed institution or any workforce development. At this time, I will have Superintendent Miller give the final thoughts.
As you can see, the pathway is robust and really is involving everyone that's in the school community. We're hitting our parents, we're hitting our community partners, we're hitting post-secondary. This is not just the Army, this is all of the armed forces that are gonna be involved in this program, and it is able to be replicated across the state. The partner names might change, of course, but this is a model that we could start to support, and it's comprehensive. It's not a minimum. We didn't just hit the minimum. This is something that's going to be great for any student where they end up going into the military or they end up going on to college or into work. What do employers tell us? They need kids who can think critically, can problem solve, they can communicate, can work in teams, are self-disciplined. This pathway hits all of those items. So with that said, I thank you for your time, and we are open to any questions.
So Dr. Miller, Dr. Shipp, thank you very much for being here. Your time. We'll open it up to the board and start with Byron.
With continued enthusiasm, I move that we approve the
I
locally...
can't wait to see what you do next time, by the way. No
Well,
pressure.
I'd like to be called on the next time again. These are kind of important to me, right? Look, I move, now you got me all confused. I move to approve the locally created pathway for the school city of Hammond.
Second.
We have a motion and a second,
I do
and
have
we'll
one quick
open it up
question, if I
to
could.
questions, discussion. BJ.
Is there an entry point past their freshman year? Like I see this course sequence. Is there, if I decide when I'm a sophomore, hey, I want to do this, but I didn't do that when I was in 8th grade, do I have the opportunity to enter this pathway at that point?
Yes, you do. And here's the way to think about it. What we did was we presented for a student who completes all 4 years, this is a comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
But it doesn't negate any of the things that are already, for example, required in Bucket C to graduate college and career readiness. So a student in Indiana, if they get 9 dual credits with a C average or better, can graduate. So yes, absolutely, they can come in as a sophomore or even as a junior. You know, we're up in Hammond, we get a lot of Illinois kids who move over to Hammond from Chicago public schools. They may come to us as a senior. Yeah, we're gonna give them those opportunities. There might be a different way they technically graduate based on their SAT but yes, we'll allow them in the program at any time. But it's written as a comprehensive 4-year program. Great question.
Yes, Iris.
Do you,
Go ahead, Iris.
do you have relationships with ROTC programs at the college level so your students can continue?
We do with IUN, but I'll let Dr. Shipp.
Yes, when I was developing this, I was in talks with IUN so that Armed Forces and the liaison between Valparaiso, IU, and Hammond, we meet and we talk. So they will be a part of that collective group that will meet quarterly.
Okay. I've got a good connection at Notre Dame that is super passionate about youth in the ROTC program, so would be happy to make that connection. We're not too far away. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Scott.
I would just piggyback on that. Purdue also has a really, really good, strong ROTC program. You just got to go. You just got to go south. I'm just saying. My question really is one of scale. What's your thoughts on the last pathway? Say that one's for 5% of the kids. This one looks like you have required JROTC classes, which implies there might be some limits on what's in your head about how many would go through this?
Right, and you're thinking of it correctly. This would be, the JROTC program is through JROTC instructors. Yeah. Dr. Shipp, you've had more conversation with them if you want to talk about expansion.
The goal is that our JROTC students want to stay in these courses, but they don't want to have to drop this course if they want to take dual credit courses, if they want to go to the Career Center. And so my goal was that as adults, we need to eliminate those barriers and create something that if I want to be in the program for 4 years, take college courses, or go to the Career Center, this gives me an avenue to do that. So we want to make sure our JROTC programs get back strong in the state, and students have those skill sets that they need to take to higher ed or to the workforce.
I think your question was more along the lines of like how many students could be in the program. Typically you can get about 200 per instructor.
Okay.
So that's right where we're at right now.
Okay.
So we are in conversation about, Hammond has 2 high schools, so Morton and Hammond Central, about adding, right now we bus kids from Morton over to Hammond Central, but we're looking at adding the second instructor over at Morton at this point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think I would add to Dr. Shipp's point that extra information was helpful to think about. You mentioned overcoming the barriers to build out this program. That's something that we as a board have expressed great interest and are very open to. We plan to ask the General Assembly for additional high school diploma flexibility so that we can pick that up as a board just as soon as that's signed into law. So as you are working through and maybe even building out future pathways, please keep us posted on the barriers that you're facing and how we can get some of that out of your way so you can really move for kids.
Dr.
We will.
Jenner?
Yes, Byron.
If I could really quick, I applaud you because JROTC ranks right up there with ag programs with me. I think every school ought to have one. But JROTC, from a historical perspective, was one of the reasons why locally created pathways kind of came into mind. Because if some recall, I was an advocate, I wanted there to be a JROTC line item. And we said, well, how do you make that for every school? And that's where then we started looking at, well, let's let schools create that. And to my knowledge, you're the first one that's created that, that's now replicable. So I'm making this comment because I want those schools that are out there that have JROTC programs. You've got somebody that's done the hard work now and created the wheel. So now put the spokes in the wheel that work for you. I like that for a metaphor.
I like it.
I'm
here
so I applaud you for that, and I'm hoping those are listening that, and just like Yorktown's, they said replicable. That's what we really, this is exciting because we're finally seeing that. And so that's exciting, and I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
Got a motion in a second.
I know. I was holding my breath, debating to say, to Jason Callahan, I know we're going to be talking about Indiana GPS here shortly, but as you all were talking, and even Byron's point, we have the area on GPS. School leaders and superintendents have seen it at this time that says employment and enrollment, but we're struggling to get the enlistment data from the federal government. There are several states working on that.
Shocking.
And so what one thing we could do is show JROTC as an indicator and who offers that. So again, that's why I held my breath for a minute, Pat, to determine if I needed to say that to Callahan so I don't forget. But we do have a motion and a second. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations,
Thank
School
you very
City
much.
of Hammond. We'll conclude today with one final presentation from Goodwill Excel Centers.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me today. Can we go back to the slides?
Yep.
So before I start with a presentation about catapult training, I wanted to share a story of a student we have because the students are why we do the work that we do. So one day, Adela was with her grandchildren telling them about the importance of earning your high school diploma and furthering your education. Her grandchildren then asked her, well, Grandma, have you gotten your high school diploma? And she had not. At that moment, she decided she wanted to go back to school and earn her high school diploma to show that great example for her grandchildren. After some research, she found the Goodwill Excel Center in Gary and became our oldest graduate at 84 years old. Indiana has been a leader in the nation about adult learning opportunities. This is the first state that has had adult high schools, the Excel Centers, and other states have replicated that. We have provided equitable opportunities for our adult high school students, and I hope this next opportunity with the catapult training is another way for us to provide equitable opportunities for our adult high school students. So now going into catapult. So this LCP is specific for adult learners only and is replicable because we have a lot of Excel Center high schools throughout our state. Indianapolis is doing catapult training, but this would allow them to have their high school students count towards graduation requirements. So our students—
Can you share what catapult training, what does that
Yeah.
mean? So it's familiar
yes,
to some
for
of us,
sure.
but probably not to everyone. What
Yeah.
is catapult training?
Definitely. So Catapult is with Connexus, Indiana. It is a manufacturing and logistics training. That is an in-demand occupation for our state, so this will just allow more individuals into that occupation.
Thank you.
Awesome, of course. So our Excel centers are for 18 years and older. So for whatever reason, high school didn't work out the first time around. So we have many young parents come back to us for their high school diploma. We've had folks who have lost parents at a young age and had to enter the workforce at a young age come back to us. A lot of different reasons. And because as adults, our needs and our priorities are a little bit different than we are in traditional high school, those needs are the same for our Excel Center high school students, which is why we found Catapults to provide an equitable opportunity for individuals with competing priorities. Because we may get a high school student with 1 credit hour left before they graduate. So they're not able to commit a long period of time for a long training. So we are able to find Catapult, which provides an equitable opportunity for them to get a robust training in a shorter time period. So we have many great partnerships within this training, Ivy Tech being one of them, as well as Connexus, Indiana, which provides the curriculum. So this partnership with Catapult and with Ivy Tech has yielded many additional partnerships. So we have 4 employers who have guaranteed interviews for our program completers, and all of them have guaranteed higher wages for individuals who finish the program compared to individuals who are applying without doing the Catapult training. Also, because our students have families, they need to provide for those families. We are providing work experience opportunities for those individuals not currently working. So this will be an optional opportunity for them to do a paid work experience for 80 hours. And we have 2 current employers who have guaranteed work experiences for our students, All My Fly and then Goodwill Industries of Michiana. So it's not required, but just an option for our students to do. And part of Goodwill programming, you have access to an employment specialist, and that employment specialist is with you a year after you graduate and finish the certification program to check in, see how things are going, see if you still like your job that you're in, or if you want a different job, or if you want additional training opportunities that we're able to connect our students to. So part of this training is the Catapult certificate, but also additional training as well. So all students will also earn the OSHA 10 certification. They'll do forklift training. The training is at our Goodwill Excel Center in Gary, which is directly connected to our Goodwill outlet store. So a lot of great opportunities to see logistics in motion and also train on the forklift as well. So with our partnership with Ivy Tech, they have 7 crosswalk credit hours for students who complete this program, 1 in student success, and then 6 additional in intro to workplace and safety, and then lean manufacturing. Lean manufacturing is embedded into the Catapult curriculum. So completion of this LCP will allow students to gain the skills necessary to be a great addition to our workforce in manufacturing and logistics. We will do assessments throughout this program as well. Prior to enrolling, all of our students complete a career inventory to make sure their interests align with the program that they're entering, to make sure that they'll enjoy the career field and not start the training and decide they want to do a different training instead. As well as assessments will be part throughout the training as well in OSHA 10 and Catapult to ensure the students are learning the correct material they need to. So because Ivy Tech is the one administering the curriculum, the students will also have access to all the resources that Ivy Tech students have, as well as all the resources that Goodwill have. So they'll have a lot of individuals who want to help them with their resume, a lot of individuals who want to help them with interview skills to provide that wraparound support for our students. So because they're enrolled in Ivy Tech, they'll be informed of the crosswalk credit hours in case they want to continue education after they graduate from the Excel Center. Connexus, Indiana is who provides the curriculum. So it's 160 total hours. They will be training the instructor who is an Ivy Tech staff member, And here are the employers who have guaranteed interviews for our students. After the course is over, we will have a job fair with all of those employers, as well as additional partners that Goodwill has, as well as Ivy Tech, to meet our students and provide them the best next opportunity for them. So in conclusion, Indiana has been a leader in adult learning opportunities, and I really hope this is the next one that could also be replicable, that's a hard word to say, replicable to other adult learning opportunities throughout our state. And I will take any questions.
I'm looking at this guy. I think he has something to say.
I am bubbling with giddiness to move that we approve the locally created pathway for Goodwill Leads Incorporated.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Yes, Scott.
So for, congratulations, and as someone who has a little bit of knowledge about the Excel centers, I mean, just first of all, congratulations for what you and the entire Goodwill organization in Northwest Indiana is doing for the students, and it makes a tremendous difference. For those that aren't familiar, this truly is a nationwide thing, and it was started here in Indiana, and I think that enhances the reputation of the state as someone who does innovation well and can take something national, and I think that's just, so again, kudos to you guys for doing this, and really good job. Again, same question as kind of before. What are your thoughts about how many students go in here, and kind of what's the sense of, like, is this half the students do this or a tenth? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, so we're thinking about 5 per class, and we hope to have at least 2 classes per school year. It's about 8 weeks, the training, so we're able to do one for folks in the fall semester as well as the spring semester. We have graduates both terms because when someone's ready and they're finished with their diploma, they want to graduate right away. So we'll have opportunities for students in both terms.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
Yes, BJ.
With, where it says students will earn as OSHA 10 forklift certification and the credits, like, is that an all or nothing? Or let's say I don't get my forklift certification, I only say that because my only caution would be, we have a high school program that is somewhat similar to this, and some of those kids do great, but the forklift is just not their thing.
Oh yeah, I understand that.
So everything else is, and we have a great partner in Barry Global that will say, okay, we have a place for you, it's just not driving a forklift. So I would caution us against saying
We
that
all
they
have our skill
to
sets,
get a-
BJ.
Oh, definitely.
I've been on the simulator, never driven one,
Oh,
because
it's
they've seen me
very
drive the
difficult.
simulator, so it doesn't work. But I'm saying, can a student finish?
Oh, for
if
sure.
they don't complete all of these, is my question.
Definitely, yeah. Catapult's the big one, and then
Okay.
forklift is just an addition to get some more
So
good
it is
skills for them.
4 on
Right.
some of
Oh, for
these.
sure,
Okay,
definitely.
good.
Any other
Great work.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Excel Center Gary. Byron, yes.
Every path matters. I say that a lot, and I have that sign above my desk because as we were doing pathways, we were always every path matters, right? And today we've seen how every path matters, and I think back to 4 years ago, Beth, I see sitting out there was a part of that. That was really hard work when we said, hey, you know what, we're finally gonna not be stupid, and we're not gonna have kids have to just take one test to graduate. And Scott, you said this, it made me think of this comment, so if you all are upset that I'm talking, it was Scott's fault, because he made me think of this. But yesterday, I was in a meeting with some New York State Board members. New York has chosen to go through this process now. They've said, you know what, we want to be like Indiana and not be stupid anymore, and we want to think about how could we do this and not just take a test, right? And it sounds like I'm being glib about that. I'm not even sure I know what glib means, but I really think it's important for us to think about just how important this work has now become. And I want to compliment the department, because Brian Murphy reminds me of this every time I talk to him, hey, we are now a department that wants to get to yes, right? And I want to make sure that schools heard that out there, because we want, I hope that this department within the department is overrun with thousands of these, right? Because our kids need it. Because we heard 5% from Yorktown, this pathway's needed for them, right? Well, there's probably another 5% out there that needs something. There's another 5%. And as we think about truly individualizing education, we talk about that a lot, and I don't think we really understand what that means, but truly individualizing education, we need to have schools really doing this. And the locally created pathway was to me the most genius thing that ever came out of that committee work, because we kept saying, gosh, what if we missed something that could be done? Well, now the locals can do that. And yesterday, I was proud to tell the New York folks, you know, as you work through this, think about how you can locally do that. That was one of the things but make sure you create a system, because we did not have that in prior departments. So I'm complimenting you all. We are now to get to yes. And doing the work to get to there. So I wanted to make that compliment, and I wanted to make that plea to schools. I wish I could get giddy at every board meeting and, you know, have something like this going on. So with that, sorry I took that up, but this is a great day for Indiana to see these great programs.
Katie, is there a way through the superintendent's mail we can remind schools, now that these pathways are approved, how they can leverage that and create these in their own schools and bring them forward, since these people have done a ton of work to get to this point, and we've talked about how do we replicate this. It might be just a nice reminder
I think that's a great idea.
to put that out for people.
And I'll
to
tell
know.
you, it might even be a top feature. Probably in January, we'll kick off the new year and remind, but I think that's a great idea. So comms team, if you're listening, let's top feature that. They are, the thumbs up. Thank you. Let's make that top feature for one of our January, and then do a preceding week's reminders. Thank you for that idea. Scott, I saw your hand.
Yeah, quick. I'll blame Byron for this. He flagged something for me. So I was in DC the last 2 days or 3 days with a group called Education Reimagined, which is folks around the country really coming together and saying, look, how do we create the next phase of education, not school, but education, that's really focused around learner-centered, right? And the topics of discussion throughout, a lot of it centered on policy, like what the things that get in the way. And once again, I think, and I was able to talk about, that Indiana is leading on a lot of these things, in the sense that there's not very many things that would get in the way of doing what educators really want to do. Now, there's other issues, but from a policy perspective, waivers and locally created pathways and all, I mean, that's all possible, right? And the thing I liked about these three presentations is they were really all focused on the learner, right? It wasn't about trying to improve something. It was like, and again, like, kudos to Yorktown, like for that idea of, like, they could just waiver those students, right? It'd be easy. But instead say, no, we're gonna create something that actually adds value, right? And I think, again, Hammond, a great job with recognizing, let's not just say, yes, we're gonna have some, maybe as students enlist, but actually create an active pathway towards that. And obviously Goodwill and the work they do with the idea of taking people who didn't make it the first time around. And again, that learner-centered of, let's give you let's not just do remediation and get you a diploma, but let's get you something that's actually marketable and actionable for your stage of life, right? So I think the idea that we have policies that allow that kind of creation of learner-centered, to Pat's point, I would love to have every meeting taken up with several hours of people coming in with unique opportunities for students. And by the way, I would love for things to happen not just within the walls of the school, but we have resources all across the state, boys and girls clubs, community organizations, faith-based organizations, who all want to help, and bringing pathways that includes those folks, right? So that we take some of the burden off of our professional, quote unquote, professional educators, and bring the community in. And again, like you know, as Stacy mentioned, you know, they want those tigers to stay tigers. Talk to your school systems around you whether or not that's true. But, you know, the idea that if you bring the community into the education piece of it, have a much higher likelihood of those students wanting to stay in the community because that's where they were educated, not just in the school building. So all that to say, there's things happening across the country and movements that are exciting, and I think we have opportunity. I think this legislative session asking for more flexibility so that we then can have the rulemaking ability to say, look, anything is possible, bring it, right? And so I think, again, we're poised. I wanted to get that out there and reminded, and I also got home at 1:30 in the morning last night for weather, so this may or may not have been entirely coherent.
It was.
So anyhow, that's just, I'm really proud of the work that has been done by this board and boards in the past, but also what is possible.
Yeah.
And I really want us to keep pushing.
Yeah, and I think that hits exactly on, we're hearing a lot about rethinking high school. I think we as a board probably started talking about that months ago, prior to the Speaker of our House coming out and talking about it. But we welcome the General Assembly having this conversation with us. And one of the things, Scott, that you mentioned on, and it really is the connective tissue and not one more thing. Byron and BJ and Katie were on this board when graduation pathways passed 5 or so years ago, 4 years ago. And it implements with this graduating class of 2023 fully. That was a starting point. And then we have Indiana GPS, which is not one more thing, but within Indiana GPS, graduation pathways data is one of multiple data points captured. And as we have this rethinking of high school, you know, it's how can we maximize the time while a student is in high school so they find their value and potential and can really see what their potential next step is. So I just wanted to make sure for listeners, for media friends and others, that this is all just a real part of building a more robust high school system in Indiana. On that note, let's have Jason Callahan, Assistant Secretary of Pathways and Opportunities, come up and give us an Indiana GPS update.
Good morning. It's a great conversation to segue to the Indiana Graduates Prepared to Succeed dashboard. I just want to take a minute again to thank the leadership of Yorktown, Hammond, and Goodwill. And the things we just heard, obviously the advocacy of Ms. Jones and Mrs. Locke to bring those to light and bring those to you today. And then also, I really believe the vision, the charge, and the permission to do this work that we just heard discussed. I bring that up because we always lead with the Indiana GPS guiding principles, and the things we just heard about those LCPs, talking about the learner-centered, right? The individualization, access to pathways for all students, strategic partnerships. All three of them had key strategic partnerships in the community. And then also that ability to be transparent and nimble of individualizing those pathways. So what was true of those LCPs is also true of the Indiana GPS. I also want to take the opportunity to thank Ron Sandlin, Brenda Earps, and many, many others who have worked behind the scenes, really crafting the characteristics, the indicators that we've brought forth, the business rules that we have worked through throughout this process, and will continue as we continue to iterate through Indiana GPS and the dashboard. So we briefed the board in October and gave that first public view of what the first iteration of the dashboard was going to look like. And part of that is the Indiana GPS scrolly-telling landing page, the state infographic page, and then district and school landing pages. I think this is really key, and every time we talk about this, we talk about that effort to take the complexities of the K-12 journey and really be able to synthesize or be able to display it in a way that you can, in 10 seconds, see how well things are going for a district and for a community. And so we knew that we were going to have some multiple layers of a dashboard to be able to do both the complexity and the simplicity. So since November 1st, school leaders have had those features available to them in an embargoed state. And we want to thank each and every one of them for the engagement they've had during this time. During this time, we've had over 200 inquiries through our JOT form. The designers of the dashboard, Resultant, have worked very closely with our team and almost daily, and during a couple of weeks, it was daily at 4 o'clock, we would look at those responses and kind of synthesize and see what we could respond to in an email or where we needed to make some of those personal phone calls to be able to talk through and just better understand what was being asked in the JOT form. And then based on this, again, you've heard Dr. Jenner say this and many of us, this is an iterative process. And so right away, even before this has been released publicly, we have 70 enhancements that we're looking at making over the coming months. So very exciting process, very excited about the engagement level. We've been talking about this publicly since last year, and to release that in that embargoed state, and then immediately we were getting a lot of input from school leaders and really valuable where people were digging in and owning their data. So very excited. So key takeaways from that embargoed pre-release is really that understanding of the methods of calculation. When we sent that out on November 1st, we also had the business rules is what we refer to, the methods of calculation. And we quickly realized as we were getting input that we could have probably been a little bit more specific about like, where's this data coming from? Is it 2021, 2022? And so we've been continuing to enhance those business rules and look to release that publicly as we release the dashboard. And then also that external data quality. And so one of the feedback pieces that we received was on the college and career coursework. And we had a district say, this just doesn't match up. So as we started looking into the data, we realized there was a disconnect between some of the data that College Board was sending the individual school and schools student score reports, and then some of the data that we had. And so we were able to identify that, you know, sometimes when students are filling out their test packets, that they fail to get the STN or certain information on there accurately. So there's like a 10%, 12% gap there in data that we didn't realize until we started undertaking this process. So it's
and just to be clear on that, the College Board was not at fault at all in the data. I want to be clear on that. The discovery was, if you look at every child who's taken an AP exam, if someone writes, if I write Catherine Jenner instead of Katie Jenner, it causes a data issue. And so then what we do as a department is we have a match algorithm that can pretty quickly take care of most of them. But there's like a tiny percentage, couple percent, that we have to go through manually that our team does. So I just want to be specific. College Board was not in the wrong. It was just the year of 2020 that we needed to calculate that, and our team has done that. So keep going.
Thank you for that clarification. Another key takeaway was the importance of attendance data. We use attendance data. If it's not cohort data, we use attendance data for every other indicator. And so if that attendance data is not correct, then the other indicators associated with that will not be correct too. And so this was a key learning for a lot of districts, for the department, and just thinking through like how can we articulate that? How can we help provide some of the technical expertise as we move forward? And again, Indiana is unique in collecting this daily attendance. We're one of a few states that does this. And in 2021, in the first year we did this, over 90% of schools were successfully submitted that daily student attendance. And a year later, we're almost at 100%. So we're right there, and we'll continue to grow.
So just to, again, give the board a little bit more detail on this. So when we had this discovery, we found that around 12 or 15 schools out of around 2,200 schools have some attendance issues. On those screens for those schools, we're going to have a pop-up when you click on that school to overcome that challenge in the short term. Yep.
Thank you. So through this embargoed process, again, we weren't going to be able, we didn't have the capacity to go school by school on an audit for all these indicators, but we recognized the opportunity here. Some of those schools that had engaged us directly, and we had some good back and forth and had a really good handle on the data, so we just took a sampling of schools and then cross-referenced that data and met with them individually as a team and walked through our designers at Resultant, who really were the data folks. We're able to give some of those overarching themes, like showing specifically, we see your attendance records, these were missing attendance records, it impacted your iLearn scores and other things. And then it also gave us some learnings too, like how can we better communicate and articulate that guidance and the importance of that guidance on these specific indicators. So again, current and future enhancements, I mentioned 70 enhancements in the works. One is simply learning, like, we need to clarify some of those business rules and understanding of where is this data that is being used for this indicator is coming from. And so we have done that, and we're about ready to release that as well. The attendance indicator and the importance of that attendance indicator, as well as one of the design features that was recognized. We connected all these indicators with grade bands, pre-K, grade 2, 3, 8, high school, beyond high school. And so if you go back to those December indicators that you affirmed, we had in that 3.8 attendance. And so on the dashboard, attendance was relegated to 3.8. So we made that fix. We heard that right away. That was very confusing. Is attendance 3.8 or is it specific to the high school? So we made that correction. And then also we fixed the iLearn graph to be more intuitive and consistent. Coming soon, one of the first things we heard from a school leader was the trend arrows, and going back to that effort to really create a simple view of the complexities, especially when you have 17 indicators. Our designers put together a accordion view of that district, so those 17 indicators, and then you open them up. But we also have trend arrows that show, is the district trending up, are they trending down? And one of the things we heard right away and then on repeat was, it's not really transparent if we are far exceeding the benchmark or graduation rates for specifically. If we went from 99% to 97%, we're still really high. And if the consumer is looking at this, they see this red trend arrow pointing down, and that may indicate something is going wrong when, it's just a blip on the radar. Also think about some of our smaller schools and cohort sizes. That can be a little misleading. And so something we're working on is, how do we put in like a ratio or a trend and be a little bit more transparent about that feature?
So rather than an up or a down, we just hold it steady as a signal.
And then finally, making those methods of calculation or the business rules more accessible to all, including consumers outside of the school leaders. So in addition to just this overview and kind of our next steps, we have invited Kurt Merlot, who is the Director of Education for Resultant. And he's going to talk a little bit about, again, we always mention this is one iteration. This is our first iteration. Quickly following this and the public release of this is going to be the second iteration that is embargoed to school leaders, where we have some drill down features and more granular data. And so Kurt's going to walk through this before I pick back up.
And by quickly, I mean that second iteration is already set to the build out that's been happening that Kurt's going to preview with us today. School leaders will probably get that embargoed form even prior to the holiday break.
Within several weeks.
Yeah.
Couple weeks.
Yeah.
Yep. And Dr. Callahan's going to navigate through here as I demo for you, but just a few brief comments. Resultant is very excited to be a part of this project. We are an Indianapolis-based firm specializing in human-centered design for IT and data solutions, and I'm here on behalf of a very talented team who did all of this work. I am an educator by trade, not a website developer or data engineer. So we'll go through here and demo for you this release that's coming up next. And Indiana's vision for this dashboard really is a pioneer. And in fact, just 5 minutes ago, the Data Quality Campaign released a brief encouraging state leaders to make accessible data to help communities navigate education through workforce. And Indiana really is an exemplar in what we're showing here today. So I do also want to draw your attention to the intentionality behind this design. As you'll recall, this website starts with what we call scrollytelling, which is to give a public consumer a very quick, digestible way to understand this data and where Indiana is at. We then go into a summary page of that data that you see here, and the user can go explore their district or even their specific school. And what we're going to show you here in just a second is a drill down page, which is what we would call the most advanced level of data analytics that the user will encounter on the GPS platform. And so today I'm showing you what is referred to as a development environment. Think of it as a sandbox that our developers use. So, if there's any lags or blips or things like that, this is the sandbox environment. So, Dr. Callan, if we want to go ahead and scroll down below the state summary page, there's the question of where are we going as a state? Very clearly indicated by that bullseye. I, as a user, can click on, under third grade literacy, learn more. And when I click on learn more, I'm going to be taken to what we call a drill down page. And what you're going to see is the state level data that is drilled down through a visualization tool called Microsoft Power BI. And so while that is loading, again, in the environment site here, the user, and we don't click on this yet, but we'll have a details page, which will highlight the characteristics that the data is associated with, as well as give the user some questions that they can ask the data so that when they see these visualizations, it's a little bit more of a guided tour instead of a, so what is this telling me? Let's go ahead and go to another indicator just in the event.
Our state internet.
Technology issues. Let's go to graduation pathways completion. So we're going to be looking at state level data, but the user will have the ability to see the same drill down at the district as well as the school level. And not just for the 5 headline indicators, but for each of the 17 indicators as well.
Can we pause? Which Wi-Fi are we connected to right now? Is it, say it again? You're hardlined in. Okay.
It did work right.
We did test it. And this worked.
This is.
Let's keep.
The cat's been in the sandbox.
Yeah.
I was gonna say this. Go ahead and let's click on it. Try it. Oh, now you. Okay. We'll try another indicator if you can go back. Otherwise, I might have to log in.
Yeah, I wonder if the login was part of the delay,
yeah.
Kurt.
The drill down will show also trends historically, as well as specific student populations, and then a comparison of those populations against one another. I am going to invite Dr. Callahan back up to the podium, and I'm going to go try to troubleshoot this behind the scenes.
This is what teachers go through every single day, right? You make it work.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, BJ.
Jason, like on the second, the slide that's in the top right corner, we're talking about the credentials that are earned. We had the one student that had come through the doors that was marked green, then we had, I think it was the 6 that were blue.
Yeah.
Are we capturing, or do we have a way to capture those 6 that are blue? Because I think I've been pretty transparent about my feelings on if the student earns a credential, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But K-12 is not higher ed.
Yeah.
So if we have a student on the way to a credential, I feel like we've done a very good job.
Yeah.
So how are we capturing I don't have my credential yet, but I'm really close, so good job, high school.
We still, it's a good question, we still have the college and career coursework, so, so that indicator still, so if I'm a school leader, in this instance, I could say, like, look, you can see, we're doing this, 70% of our students are earning some type of college and career coursework, but our credential is 5%, or, right? So you can tell that story through the data.
We're giving our kids a head start. We
Yes.
can pick that up. Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
we do show that, BJ, but I think to elaborate on some of the conversation we've had, and it's now pulling up, so this was a good timing point. But BJ, I mean, is there a future, when you see these 70 enhancements, and we encourage the board, the general public, everyone to take a look at what else we do need to enhance. Maybe there's a further enhancement option, but Kurt, back to you.
Yeah, and I will do my best to, I know it might be small for some of you on this bigger screen, but so what we have pulled up is the drill down page for our graduation completion data, which, as the disclaimer denotes, that takes effect with this 2023 class that Dr. Jenner mentioned. So there's a caveat to this, but it gives us a glimpse of how Hoosier high schoolers are completing those pathways. Now, you'll see then at the top, and Dr. Callahan can click on any one of those student population buttons. When we click on one of those student population buttons, we'll be filtering the data specific to that student population. In this example with English learners, we're seeing English learner data compared to non-English learner data. And then that trend or that kind of design continues as we look at high ability, homelessness, race and ethnicity, socioeconomic status, and special education. Now, for all 17 indicators, that involves a lot of different data sets. Not every single data set has data on the population, so you'll see some variance. You might notice, well, why isn't this student population shown in the FAFSA data? It's just how the data is coming in at the moment, but this tool is already helping the state become more efficient and thorough in its data collection. So this does represent the student populations that were identified. If you click on the details page there, Dr. Callahan, you'll see the characteristics, it's up there at the top, that are associated with this particular indicator that were affirmed by this board. This page will also have questions that the user can ask this drill down page, so that once again, if this user is facing this data for the first time, they're not looking at the chart saying, well, what am I supposed to see here? What's the takeaway? I want to exit out of that and click on any one of those indicators.
Why don't you click on literacy?
Yeah, we'll see if that one pulls up for us this time. And go ahead and click on that data tab there to the top. One more time, there you go. All right, you'll see here, this is our third grade reading results, and that dotted line indicates our goalpost as a state and where our
That was
arrow
a
is
suggestion, by the way, an
That's right.
enhancement suggestion. Someone said, keep going.
That's right. So we are testing that out in this view. You didn't see it in the previous one, but that is clearly marked here. Once again, I find this particularly insightful when you go down to the specific student populations. You can really begin to see how are we as a state serving those populations. And I'll just remind you that this same view will be available for districts as well as schools. So it's presenting data to schools and communities in ways that we've honestly never really shown or seen before, and will help us to make some local decisions to how to better serve those populations.
So to be clear, then the Power BI options will be linked regarding the state to that homepage, that infographic page. And then are you going to go to a school page and show that, or?
If you would like to, it does show the school
I think so.
specifically.
I think so.
Dr. Callahan, if you want to exit out of the screen, go to the bottom of that state summary page and type in a district or a school, then we can show you what that will look like when you see it on that page. So this is what we call our district page. It summarizes in a quick glimpse the gauge view of where the district is against those 5 headline indicators. As you scroll down, you'll see the accordion view of the other indicators. And let's just look at student attendance there at the top. If you scroll at the very top, above kindergarten, yep. And that Explore button will allow that user to take a deeper look beyond what they see here from the trend lines and the snapshot of those student populations. So hitting the Explore button will take us to that drill down page. And the data will load here, and we'll see the district's data for attendance. And you'll also have the ability, again, to look at that by student population. This is a development site, so we are kind of working with the layouts while you'll see some duplication there. It's the same data in those two rows, but the point is it will compare, in this example, paid versus free and reduced lunch students to see those trends. Yeah, go ahead.
On the data piece, let's say I have an EL student who is in poverty and special education. They show up then in each one of those accounts each time.
Yeah, they
That's
would.
right.
It would be a comparison. You're right, Pat. It'd be a comparison between special education, non-special education, EL, non-EL.
When we look at enhancements for the future, one of the things that we can get more dynamic with is that advanced filtering to be able to see the intersect of different populations.
Yeah.
But as to not overwhelm the population with this data, because it's the first time we wanted to start here and then continue to iterate. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of that, Dr. Callahan, and we'll scroll down to any of the other indicators that might be of an interest there in the accordion view.
I would say that I love this page. Like, I love how easy that cover page is to look at, and I see the gauges that are red, yellow, green. I'm a simple-minded guy, and I like being able to look at it and in 30 seconds have a pretty good view of what's going on there.
Excellent.
So I love that.
Thank you for that feedback. It's also mobile friendly, which was important to test. Let's look at SAT performance. There we go. And the Explore button for SAT performance there. This will be faster in the production environment, just as a note. But here you'll see a summary of all students in the district and their SAT performance, and once again, the student populations. You can see those trends and comparisons.
So, can you go back to that one? Sorry. Where does this number, and this is public, this is not a question for you, but I want to ask it. Where do these two numbers with the average, that's an average of what? This school, or is this a national average for those numbers?
This is for the district that we have pulled up.
And then on our state page, it would be the average for the state.
I wonder how those numbers line up with what our requirement for box 3 SAT score is, would be my question. And I don't know the answer to that. But
And that could be, and probably should be a note that we have on that page.
Yeah, goalpost.
Again, just the connection. And we're gonna, when you see those things, I can't emphasize this enough. Like, there are gonna be so many things that when we open this, it's gonna be, okay, well, what about this? What about this? And you can add to our list of 70 action items right now, of which we are going to publish so that you hold us accountable. We're going to keep enhancing. But that's a great question, BJ, and one that we need to add.
Yeah, excellent.
Katie, that just,
So,
Katie has
I'm sorry. That I wonder if we don't have to do it now, but in going back and looking at the scrolly telling narrative, with again from the lens of how well are we casting that comprehensive vision at the very top about the connection between grad pathways, right? Like all the pieces. I know we have those, we have the tiles, which are awesome, but I was just reflecting on all the conversation we've had about the way it feels to the viewer, and the comprehensive story of kind of the headline level of vision about why any of those things matter. And anyway, that was just coming up for me as I was listening. And feels like a good opportunity to do just a review from that perspective again.
So we have, as you know, had a lot of focus group conversation throughout this process. We know that with educators, the robust conversation we've had and listening since November 1st has been fantastic. It's probably going to be the same, we anticipate, when we open it for the public, from parents and families and also community leaders, and really understanding that we connect the why and set the stage in the beginning will be an important question that we continue to ask. In that scrolly telling, if you recall, graduation pathways is in there as part of it, as is rethinking high school. So, but there's always, again, room for additional conversation there. Keep going, Kurt.
Yeah, and that storytelling can be edited, and a similar conversation came up with the attendance behind the attendance criteria. We know that in Indiana, students who have less than a 94% attendance rate, we start to see effects to their academic outcomes. So I think that's a great point. I want to mention, as Dr. Jenner also said, that this is going to be embargoed view to schools in the coming weeks. Schools will have a period of time to review their drill down pages, give us feedback on what they see, and then it'll be set up for a public release shortly thereafter. Later,
so to be clear,
yes,
though,
yeah,
we will be releasing the iteration 1
correct.
Likely next week. And then, and Jason has a letter that'll go out to principals and superintendents today. We've run the checks. But then the iteration 2 is what you're talking about, that schools and superintendents will have that embargoed. We'll always give them that embargoed status to really see, push and pull before we go live. Right. We'll have a third iteration early in 2023. We're gonna just keep rolling with the process.
Yeah, so for the first iteration, you'll see if you click on any of the accordion views, the Explore button will not be there in the first iteration, but it will then be there in the second iteration that Dr. Jenner described. Later then into 2023, we are going to produce an authenticated or a password secure view for schools to see their individual row level data behind each of these metrics so that they can actually see the specific students that went into those calculations to validate, to use for interventions, whatever that they might need that level of insight for.
And we will provide row level data for almost every indicator, even those coming from outside of the Department of Education, from the Commission or Department of Workforce Development, other than median income, which we did not advocate that row level data comes. There could be future conversations on why schools need that, but as of now, that is not one that schools will get. Schools will get the others.
Correct. And Dr. Callahan, if you scroll at the bottom, what Dr. Jenner was referencing is in the,
It's actually go to baseball high.
Right
yeah, there it is.
So for graduation and beyond, we have employment and enrollment, sustained employment, and then that median income per capita. These are all obviously in partnership with DWD and CHE and Indiana specific, and we do make that note to say this is based on employment within the state, so we can see where those graduates go. It will not reflect if they are employed outside of the state, though, and that caveat, that distinction is made as well.
Yeah.
That concludes the demonstration. We're really excited for this next release and appreciate the board's continuous drive for innovation. And like I mentioned in the beginning, it really is an exemplar in the country. So thank you all. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Kurt. And Jason, I think you have just timeline and next steps if you have anything else to brief the board with.
Yeah, and I think you covered almost everything. I wanted to mention about the authenticated, again, the student level data that was mentioned, and something that we heard a lot in the job forms, and being able to really own the individual data. So that'll be important. The only other thing is we'll continue to work with stakeholders along this whole process. Katie, I think you made a good point about really the connectivity of things. And I've heard from a lot of school leaders about how they're starting to talk, or they wanted to know when they could present this to their school boards or others. They're going building by building to talk about really those benchmark indicators, thinking about school improvement plans, et cetera. And then finally, we'll work with stakeholders, including all that we've already worked with and the General Assembly, to determine how schools are best measured in the future. So.
Jason, on the slide prior, it talks about the resources we'll be releasing to schools as kind of a communication resource.
And again, it was really helpful to be able to sit down with some individual schools and think about what from a programmatic and then also a technical background. So we're working with the Resultant and with our comms department and within the department to put together some how-to videos to really assist people on this, and as well as how do we engage the community as a whole.
All right, great. We'll pause and open it up for any questions or discussion for Jason, Kurt. Yes, BJ.
Just a quick comment. Jason, Kurt, team, like this is awesome. We beg as educators for additional data points to truly try and paint a picture of what is happening inside the school building. And it's been 2 decades, my entire career coming, so kudos and great work in putting this together. And what I love is the fact that it's amendable. We haven't dug our heels in, like this is what we're doing, this is where we're staying, like it is fluid and it works. And as we move forward with those, towards accountability, these two matching up, I think, is important. But I think it's really important to understand this is not accountability. Like this is a way for you to look and see what's going on with your kiddos and how you can get better. And that's awesome.
Thank you, BJ. Any other questions or discussion? Iris?
It might be a stretch, but I as I'm seeing this, I think about economic development in our state and how industry might use this as a way to look at where, doing business here so that we can keep our talent here, and really make educated decisions about where to place their companies because of the talent that is available in those spaces. So I think it's just awesome, and if we can get a leap on all the other states in that would be wonderful.
I had dinner with Secretary Chambers on Monday night.
Perfect.
And said, we have things to talk about.
Awesome.
So I totally agree. What else? All right. On
Good
that
work. I mean,
on that note,
we're doing
well,
well.
it's
Good
a
job.
team effort. Everybody's been a part of this creation, including our school folks who've been, again, excellent with feedback, the state board, so many calls and discussions, and community leaders, et cetera. So more to come. On that note, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Board, I have a little something for you. I usually don't give Christmas gifts.